In this golf bag, I could have some of the best irons of 2025 for the average golfer. Let me explain. Okay, so first things first, before we start this video today with these, what look like really, really good irons, let's address why it's me testing today and not Rick. Obviously, you've subscribed to H.I.T Golf to see Rick testing golf clubs. Today's a little bit different. You might know me from the podcast, the Rick Shields Golf Show. You might have seen me playing some videos with Rick and, let's be honest, hacking it around a lot of the time. But my name's Guy, and I used to be, the key word there, used to, I used to be a decent golfer. Back about 10 years ago, I was a solid 3 or 4 handicapper. And as time has gone on, I've got worse and worse and worse, and the story goes on. And today, really, if I go out there and break 80, I'm pretty happy. So that's kind of my level of golf. I'm a bit more of the average golfer these days. Obviously, Rick, he's a great golfer, PGA professional, trying to break 75 week in, week out. That's not me. Even though my golf's been getting worse, I'd like to think my product knowledge is pretty strong. I used to work for Nike Golf for 3.5 years. I was a custom fitter for them. I've worked obviously for Rick for 8 years now nearly, and been behind the scenes of all these hit shoots. So I do know golf equipment pretty well. And I'm always excited to try the latest and greatest gear. So, the real reason I'm in here today to try these golf clubs and not Rick, I very politely pushed him to the side and said, Rick, let me try these irons because there's something about them that really excites me. Currently, I use the Titleist T100 irons, which are great, but they are quite slim and they're not the most forgiving. When we got sent the press release for these irons, there was a couple of lines that really got me excited. So let me just read this to you. It's not very long. And it's from the Ping CEO and President, John K. Solheim. And it says, the Ping i240 irons provide precision and control with a great feel. Heard that lots of times before. They are technically a player's iron. However, they have the MOI and higher launch of a game improvement iron. They're a great solution for avid players who like the look, feel, performance of blade style irons, but they could also benefit from added forgiveness when they aren't precisely striking the golf ball. So for someone like me, who has been in the day a decent golfer and prefers the look of a kind of smaller headed iron, I'm not a fan of these huge, big, bulky, kind of clumbersome irons. But I do need forgiveness. I've got to be honest, certainly the 4 irons, 5 irons, even 6 irons, need that little bit more help. As a lot of you guys watching will, I'm sure you'll agree, these golf clubs could then have everything. They could have the kind of looks behind the ball of a smaller iron, but with that bit more forgiveness. So today I'm going to try these irons out. I've got the 4 iron, the 7 iron and the wedge. The big test for me really is not only how the 7 iron performs, the wedge performs, I know roughly what they will do. But it's how that longer iron performs. How do these perform in a longer iron? And are these a set of golf clubs that you guys watching who don't like big, ugly irons, but want that bit more forgiveness? Are these a set of irons that you guys should be looking to buy? So first things first, these irons in hand look nice. They look very Ping. However, you might notice that compared to the Ping i230, the previous generation, they're not quite as clean looking. Last iteration was very kind of simplistic in its design. These have got a bit more going on, a bit more kind of carbon look on them, a little bit busier, but doesn't offend me. Some people might love that, some people might hate it. Behind the golf ball, that does look awesome. It does look very kind of sleek in design, but yeah, you can tell that slightly thicker top line, that bit more going on in the back of the golf club here. You kind of do get that bit of confidence. It's going to kind of give you a bit more forgiveness. For me, normally my 7 iron should carry about 170. These are a little bit stronger lofted than my irons, about half a degree, so maybe a full degree. So if I can get these about 174, carry 175, carry that should be pretty much on the number. Again, that does look nice behind the ball. Lots of confidence. And that was a good test because that was pretty fat. Bit slappy, and there you go. That didn't carry anywhere near what it should do. And that's the exact golf shot I do hit on the golf course. I try not to, but they happen. A little bit fat, a little bit heavy, and that ended up landing then at 156 carry. So I lost about 16 yards. Not the best of starts, but hey, it happens. That's a better hit. Bit toey, but I'll take it. Okay, so that's 2 shots down. both a little bit fat, unfortunately. So let me hit a few more shots now, and then we'll come back and talk about more about the tech in a moment. That was it well. Okay, so that was actually a really good test because, again, as at the start of this video, I'm a bit more of an average golfer now. Some of those golf shots were absolutely nailed. They went miles and they felt awesome. Some of them, unfortunately, were a bit fat, a bit heavy, a few thin as well, so kind of gave the club face a full test, really. So far, quite impressed. Without going into the numbers too much just yet, I want to hit the wedge and I also want to hit the 4-iron. That 4-iron is one I'm kind of most excited to try. But a bit more about these golf clubs in general. As at the start, it's hard to say if they look as nice as the previous generation. I'd probably, maybe not for me. It took me a while to get my kind of thoughts across, so I'm not sure. They do look more modern. There's a little bit of carbon, does look kind of quite nice, but you think these might date quite quickly. The previous generation, the i240's, just looks so timeless. So maybe compared to the last iteration, it's a thumbs down from me. A thumb up, however, though. The last generation actually came out in October 2022. We're now recording this in July of 2025, so these irons are going to probably stay current for about 2.5 years, which is a nice thing to know when you buy a set of irons, that they are going to stay current and, you know, not going to date too quickly. That's quite a good thing. In terms of tech, this is really an iron that is designed for that better player, that mid-handicap player, and possibly that kind of 20 handicapper that will strike the irons quite well. I wouldn't want to see someone who throw off 24, 25, probably venturing into these irons. So in terms of technology with the golf club, what they've tried to do is keep it looking sleek behind the golf ball, but then fill all that tech in the back of the golf club. It's quite an interesting story. Got this undercut cavity, and in here there was injection molded, activated elastomer, which is basically like a kind of rubber-like polymer, and that helps to improve feel, improve forgiveness, with that still kind of tour-inspired shaping as well. And it should give you a higher launch, certainly in that longer iron, that kind of more forgiving high launch and long iron, mid irons, with that kind of softer feel and sound. So Ping aren't the first brand to do that, to kind of have these kind of undercut cavities and fill them with stuff, but obviously it does seem to work. They've then also replaced that badge, so whereas before I was saying this one's a bit messier looking and not quite as clean as the i240, apparently this kind of badge is 8 grams lighter than in previous models, so that again helps them to move weight, make them more stable, have that kind of greater moment of inertia, that kind of magical word we hear so much about, and essentially, hopefully, help you hit more greens. So lofts of these irons are relatively kind of traditional in terms of the modern word for traditional. The 7-iron comes in at 33 degrees, the pitch and wedge is 45 degrees, and the 4-iron's 22.5 degrees. So again, it sits kind of alongside those Titleist T100s, the T150s. Onto the pitch and wedge. First things first, behind the golf ball, that does look sleek, and it does look slim. It kind of doesn't look too far off like a blade, really. And it's quite rounded. That's the first thing I noticed of these. Compared to the irons I play anyway, it's quite rounded on the toe. But I like it. This should, for me, go around 140 yards, certainly on a good hit. Oh, that was that fat one again. That's definitely a bit of a trend of today. But that's really key to see how forgiving it is. And to be fair, look at that. That was a fat golf shot, I'll be honest. That was hit badly, and it still went on the green and a few foot away. That was a better hit. Felt a bit higher as well for face. That one's got a bit higher in launch. Right, let's hit a few more. Okay, so far so good. This pitch and wedge has performed very well. One more, feeling confident. Let's try and get this one close before we get into that 4-iron. Oh my days, oh that's a bit big. I must say, so far, I have been impressed. I've been really lucky in my old job and working with Rick for so long that I've tried so many different brands of golf club. But one thing I've not tried too much of, if being honest with you, is ping irons. I love the ping woods, I've got the ping drive in the bag at the minute, but the irons not tried loads of, but so far, super impressed. As I said, this is the big test, it's the 4-iron, and like a lot of you guys watching, it's the golf club I probably struggle with the most, certainly in the iron set, it's the least loft, it's the most scary looking. However, with all this tech in the back of the golf club, Ping are also claiming that you should have 11% tighter dispersion. So, I'm sure again I'll be testing this right across the face. But golf shots, if I believe what Ping are claiming, shouldn't be too far offline. Okay, so behind the ball, it does look a little bit daunting. There's a bit of thickness to that top line, and you do know there's that bit of kind of support at the bottom of the club here, but it does look a little bit daunting. I've put the flag out to 215 yards, which could be optimistic, I'm not sure, but that's the goal. And unlike when you're watching Rick, there could be some real wayward shots here, so don't laugh too much if there is. But let's give it a go. I'm going to be confident. It's a 4-iron, it's got all this forgiveness, it's 11% tighter dispersion. Come on. And again, it was a fat one. It was fat. However, if I hit that on the golf, if it was a long par 4, and I hit that shot, second shot to the green, I've actually made the green. That was hit terribly. So maybe, just maybe, there is something in this whole MOI story and forgiveness story. Maybe these golf clubs are more forgiving than other brands, because that was hit so bad. And same again. It's a fat one, but it's gone straight, it's bouncing, it's rolling, and it's made the green. I think to give this a third test, I'm going to hit a few shots, not talking, I'm going to concentrate. Hope to try and hit a few better than that. And again. That was a better hit. That was a little bit toey still, which again, kind of is good to test the whole face, but went straight down the target line, made the green. I'd be putting for probably a birdie if that was a long par 4, so can't argue with that. So far, I've not hit many of this 4-iron that I'm absolutely made up with. I've really hit them across the face. But two things to note so far that I'm liking. The first thing is the feel is genuinely awesome. They do feel really, really nice. Even a mishit 4-iron, which sometimes can almost hurt your hands, does feel great. And secondly, there's definitely been a few offline, but they don't feel like horrendously offline. So whether it's kind of in my head, because I'm thinking of this whole MOI story or not, I'm not too sure. But they do feel there's a bit of forgiveness in them, but then behind the ball, they do look so sleek. It's quite a good combination. I am quite liking them so far, I'll be honest. That was bad. That was the best hit of the day. That was absolutely flushed. If I hit that 4-iron onto a green, I will be very, very happy. It's actually gone through the green. I'm gonna hit one more. I'm going to give you my full verdict on these golf clubs. Okay, so the results are in. First things first actually, fair dues to Ping, because they are an unbelievably nice feeling iron. They look decent, maybe not as good as last year, but they feel awesome. However, let's be honest, a golf club feeling great isn't everything, certainly on the golf course. Before we started this video, I did something a bit sneaky. I also hit some shots on my own iron, which is the Titleist T100 7-iron, and the Ping i240. Quite interesting results actually. So my current 7-iron on average was carrying 170 yards. The Ping i230, the old generation, 174 yards. And this new iron, the Ping i240, was 169. So really, not a great deal in it. These two definitely went a bit longer than my own iron, but they are a little bit stronger in loft, so not too surprised about that. But for me, in this small test, last year's iron actually performed better. So that's interesting to note that not always is newer better. But overall, for me, that 7-iron kind of performed roughly how I would have expected it to, and I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It was good, it was strong. But more excitingly for me is the wedge and certainly the 4-iron, because that 4-iron is the one where I struggle. Again, I know a lot of you guys watching do these 4 and 5-irons, 3-irons as well, very scary golf clubs. How did that perform? Okay, so the pitching wedge. Overall, performed well. The carry was 137 with a total distance of 139, so around that kind of 140 carry I'd roughly expect. And it went really straight. It performed well for me. If I could hit all my irons like that, I might well be a scratch golfer, but I don't, and I'm not. But then, the more important test was this 4-iron. You know, it claims to have this more forgiving head, 11% tighter dispersion. In the hands of a real golfer, an everyday golfer, it was okay. I hit some good ones and some not so good ones, and as you can see from the graphs, a lot of them went to the right, which is me, that's human error, but it's not a magic wand. When these golf clubs have these promises, this higher MOI and improved forgiveness, it does make a difference to a degree, but if you put bad swings on, which I did, lots of fat golf shots, you're still going to hit bad golf shots. So overall, my carry was 202 yards, rolling out's about 218, so not bad. I probably expect a 4-iron for me normally to go a bit further, but again, didn't catch it great. Overall though, these irons are a very, very nice set of irons. If you are a 14 handicap and below, and you don't like the look of bigger, kind of uglier golf clubs, you want something a little bit sleeker, but with still some level of forgiveness that feel phenomenal, this is a set to go. However, because they are obviously brand new to market, there's one thing to note. They are quite expensive. Per golf club is £190, so they're not cheap. You might want to possibly have a look at going second hand for the older models, for the i240. For me, they probably look better, perform really well. So it's a tough one, but having said that, if you like shiny new things, you will not go wrong with this golf club. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to see more of an average golfer testing some golf clubs, make sure to subscribe and like down below. However, don't worry, Ricky's back very soon.